Okay, welcome back to math class, and welcome to 10-6. So, we've learned a lot about triangles over the course of chapter 10. Hopefully you guys remember back to 10-3 when we were classifying triangles, and so you remember what a right triangle is. For those of you that maybe don't remember, a right triangle is any triangle that has a right angle, and a right angle is going to look, remember, it's 90 degrees, and we mark it by completing the square right there. So a right triangle is a triangle that has a right angle in it. Now today we're going to learn about two different special kinds of right triangles. The first one is called a 45, 45, 90 triangle. The reason it's called that is because it has one angle that's 95 and then two that are 45. So it's a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Pretty good. What we know about a 45, 45, 90 triangle is that because these two angles are equal, so are these two sides. So 45, 45, 90 triangles, we also automatically know they are isosceles. Now you'll remember from when we talked about the Pythagorean theorem that when you have a right triangle, we call the longest side a leg, or a hypotenuse. The longest side is the hypotenuse, and the two short sides are legs. That's a leg, and that's a leg, and this side is the hypotenuse. Right? So in a 45, 45, 90 triangle, we have our legs are congruent, and the hypotenuse will always equal however long the legs are times the square root of 2. So no matter what they are, let's say it's x. X is the length of the leg, and if it's the length of this one, then it's that one because they're the same. If this length is x, then the length of the hypotenuse will be x times the square root of 2. Every time. So we'll automatically know that this one is x on the square root of 2. And it doesn't matter what it is. If I told you that this side measures 5, and I asked you to find the other two sides, you should automatically go in your head, well, if this one's 5, then this one has to be 5. And then to figure out this one, I just do 5 times the square root of 2. And you're done. So that's with a 45, 45, 90 triangle. If you're given one of these sides, you should be able to find out the others, as long as you can see that it has a 45 degrees, a 45, and a 90. The other kind of special right triangle we're going to talk about today is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now, you might be able to guess what that means, since a 45, 45, 90 triangle has two 45 degree angles and one 90 degree. A 30, 60, 90 triangle, it's going to look more like this. It will still have a 90 degree angle, but this time it's going to have a 30 degree angle and a 60 degree angle. And that's why it's called a 30, 60, 90, because we have 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Now what we're going to be able to know about a 30, 60, 90 triangle is that it will always be, whereas this one will always be isosceles, 30, 60, 90 triangles will always be scalene. What do I mean when I say scalene? You should remember, scalene means none of the sides are equal. What we do know about the sides, though, A 30, 60, 90 triangle will always have still a hypotenuse, right? The hypotenuse is the longest side, just like up there. But if you'll notice, with its two legs, it has a shorter leg and a longer leg. Everybody see that? It's like, they're still both legs, and the very longest side is a hypotenuse. But when you're looking at the legs, the short leg and the long leg, I'm going to label them short and long. Now, when you're looking at a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the short leg, we're going to call it x for right now. If the short leg measures x, the hypotenuse of that triangle will always be 2 times x. If it's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Let me see, up here, x on the square root of 2 was the hypotenuse, right? Down here, the hypotenuse equals 2 times x. And x being the short side, the hypotenuse will be 2 times the short side, the short leg of the triangle. Now, how do we figure out the long side? The long side will always be, x on the square root of 3. So 3 times the square root of whatever the short side was. This one's a little more complicated, but still, if they give you the short side, you'll still be able to know what to do, because suppose I said that the short side, instead of being x, the short side is 3. Then, to figure out the hypotenuse, all I have to do is put 3 where the x goes. 2 times 3 is 6. So our hypotenuse would be 6. And to figure out our long side, I would put 3 in where the x is, so I would get 3 on the square root of 3. You can leave that like that. Hypotenuse is 6. The long side is 3 on the square root of 3. You can leave it like this, or you can use a calculator, because you know that 3 is not a perfect square. If you do get a perfect square under there, though, you better simplify it. But this is as simplified as it can go without us putting it in our calculator. So when you get to that point, you're done. You know all 3 sides. Some of your homework problems are going to ask you for more than one side. But remember, all you need is this information. Once you know what your short side is, these 2 you can find easy. You guys got this. Almost done.